and welcome to the 2023 Downers Grove Candidates Question and Answer Forum for the position of Village Council. The forum organizers, Tom Schroeder and Hillary Dank, would like to thank the candidates for attending today so that voters can learn more about them and their campaigns. They'd also like to thank the Village of Downers Grove for agreeing to air this forum on the Village's Channel 6 cable station and also on their YouTube channel. The genesis of this forum is nonpartisan, has no sponsors, and is purely an attempt to learn about each candidate through this question and answer forum. There are also no audience members present, so questions and answers can be heard clearly without any interruptions. The goal is to inform voters and encourage everyone to vote in this important election. The questions being asked today are a product of the organizers reaching out to a dozen different Downers Grove groups, soliciting questions. Every attempt was made to address the pressing issues facing our community. If an issue the voters care about is not addressed, we encourage voters to reach out to the candidates to ask those questions directly. The candidates have received these questions along with the rules in advance of today's forum. The candidates are now sitting in order of how they appear on the election ballot. Each candidate will give a 2-minute introduction. I will then read 7 questions one at a time. Each candidate will be limited to a maximum of no more than 90 seconds to answer each question. We ask that candidates please adhere to this time, as answers extending past this allotted time will be edited out. Candidates will then have 2 minutes for closing statements. Now we will begin the 2-minute introduction, starting with...
Well, thank you very much. And I want to thank, first of all, Tom and Hillary and Amy and the Village of Downers Grove for making this possible and for reaching out and educating the voters, not only that there actually is an election taking place on April 4th of 2023, but to learn about the candidates and about the issues affecting our community. So thank you very much for the opportunity to do that. My name, as mentioned, is Martin Tully, and I am a 30-plus year resident of Downers Grove and a proud graduate of Downers Grove North High School. Almost state champions, so good for them. My wife and I have lived in Downers Grove with our 2 sons for most of that time, and we've lived in North, Central, and in South Downers Grove. I may look familiar to some of you because I served 2 terms on the Downers Grove Village Council and then stepped down because I thought that was the contribution. It was time to go back to my private life, and then 2 years later was asked to run for mayor of Downers Grove. Served 2 terms as mayor of Downers Grove during a period that I'm very proud of what the village was able to accomplish, and then stepped down again in 2019 due to term limits. So some people have asked, why do you want to come back to the village council? And the answer is because I have more to get back to my community, and I have the experience and institutional knowledge in order to make a real difference and keep our community the safe, welcoming, and thriving place that it is and will continue to be. Professionally, I'm an attorney with the law firm of Redgrave LLP, where my practice focuses on business litigation, data privacy, and cybersecurity. I also have administrative roles in a number of committees and have a lot of experience with respect to how to make good organizations even better. And I'd like to bring that to the Village of Downers Grove. Last, I'll simply say that the Downers Grove Village Council and the residents of Downers Grove, more importantly, deserve members on their village council who are proven leaders with a track record of exceptional results. And I will bring that if elected on April 4th. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Leslie Sadowski-Fugit, and I am running for my 2nd term for Downers Grove Village Commissioner. I also want to thank Tom, Hillary, and Amy for taking the time out on this snowy Sunday to do this for us. I'm a 12-year resident of Downers Grove. I live here with my husband and daughter, who's in 1st grade at Fairmount Elementary School. I originally decided to run in 2019 as a result of extensive stormwater issues in my neighborhood. I live in Deer Creek, and the creek actually runs through my street, as well as the lack of transparency surrounding some board appointments that went against, in my opinion, community values and cost the village a significant amount of money in legal fees. So as someone with a master's level science degree and extensive training in environmental education, I wanted to use both my knowledge and scientific literacy skills to bring evidence-based decision-making to the village council. And since being elected in 2019, I've scrutinized scientific media and staff reports to come to my decisions rather than rely on just emotions. I'm really proud of the work that we've done collectively as a council over the last 4 years. We finally approved a plan for our village facilities, and construction is on time and under budget. The plan includes additional sustainability measures that were not a part of previous iterations. We've kept property taxes a great value for residents while improving upon services by adding a social worker and project management staff. I also proposed a successful diversity, equity, and inclusion initiative, which is currently underway and has resulted in increased diversity in hiring. It's more reflective of the demographics who live in Downers Grove. The last 2 years have been incredibly difficult, almost 3 years now, have been incredibly difficult throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. And I am very proud of being part of a very respectful and cordial team who has stayed unified throughout the whole last 3 years. We are focused on the same goals of providing excellent services at a good value to the residents, and I look forward to continuing that dynamic and work in the next 4 years if reelected.
All right, my name's Mike Davenport. I'd also like to thank Tom and Hillary and Amy for putting this together. I'm asking for your vote for Village Council. My wife Shelley and I are architects. We've been married for 33 years, have 4 children, and started our architecture firm, Davenport Architects, 28 years ago. And for the last 12 years, I've served on the District 99 School Board. At my core, I'm a problem solver who knows how to bring people together. I have decades of experience working effectively with people of wide-ranging abilities and opinions. And my creative and technical experience and my experience working with a $100 million school budget will be invaluable as I consider future village plans and the maintenance and improvement of existing infrastructure. Before we get this forum underway, I'd like you to know a little bit more about what makes me tick. After my father died when he was 58, I made a commitment to take better care of myself. I started running and have since finished 14 marathons, including Boston in 2005, 10, and 14. I know a little something about resolve, endurance, and determination. I will never stop working to make this world a better place for my family and the community that we call home. I am forever grateful for the love and care my family has received from neighbors, friends, coaches, and teachers, and all the amazing people we encounter every single day. Have you ever met Luis Rizzo at the Y or Julie Nidek at the District 99 ASC? This town is filled with caring people just like them. And despite all the recent divisiveness, I believe most of us do care for one another and love this town. We just need to show a little more grace with the people that we disagree with. So thank you for considering and me for Downers Grove Village Council Commissioner. Thank you.
Hello, my name is James P. Jim Devitt, and I'd like to thank the organizers of this event for giving me the opportunity to speak to you today. I'm running for a seat on the Village Council partly because I realize the great division in our community is only damaging it. In fact, as recently as last night and this morning, I was bullied and threatened, as was my wife, and even worse, my daughter, by supporters of someone sitting here today. Someone who took a pledge to speak out against bullying. This just tells me that we have a long way to go and a lot of work to do. I'm the person to stand up and say enough is enough and that we need to find some sort of common ground to move forward. I will bring new ideas and insight to the council, and I will not rest on past accomplishments or make vague promises. You will see me do what I say I will. It is time for actions, not words. If you listen to my platform, you'll hear specific things that I want to accomplish, not just vague generalities. Ask yourself if anyone else has done such. The answer is no. Personally, I've lived in Downers Grove for almost 10 years now, and even before that, I found myself coming here over and over for the small town atmosphere that was everywhere. When I had the opportunity to move here, I gladly did so, and now my wife and I call DG home. We're members of a local church and do volunteer work for PADS, Feed My Starving Children, the Northern Illinois Food Depository, and others. My background is in sales and marketing, and I own my own small business here in town as well, so it's very safe to say I've sunk my roots deep in this community. In that time, I've seen many changes, some good and some bad. I've learned from them all. I've had tears in my eyes at the loss of young lives and celebrated great accomplishments throughout the community. I've seen it at its best, and unfortunately, its worst as well. I want to be that voice who starts change in our village, and I think I have some good ideas on how to do that, but my career in sales has taught me to listen more than I speak, and listen to residents is what I pledge to do if elected. That's why I'm running for Village Council.
Hi, thank you, Tom, Hillary, and Amy. I'm very honored to be here and humbled. My name is Tammy Sarver, and I am also running for commissioner. And never in my life did I think I'd actually run for public office. I've been a political scientist, a trained political scientist for the last 25 plus years. And for all those times, I've been studying kind of what all of you or most of you have lived before in your careers. And I've recently felt that it was my time to step up and serve my community. When I was finishing graduate school, I told my dissertation advisor that I would look for jobs anywhere but the Midwest. Well, a job in the Midwest found me, and I've been here 22 plus years, and now it's home. This is where I will end. I love Downers Grove, and I want to keep it that way. It was intentionally the town I chose when I decided to move out here. A little bit more about me. I am a professor of political science and pre-law advisor at a small Catholic liberal arts college in the area. I couldn't ask for a better job. I absolutely love what I do. I live in a big old farmhouse up the road with my 2 dogs. Family's important to me. I brought my elderly mother here to live about 3 years ago when she could no longer live on her own in our hometown in Pennsylvania. I also have a partner, and I spend much time with him and his daughter. And I am just looking forward to this, and I really hope the community really reads through and listens to the different things that all of the candidates has to say and really makes a thoughtful decision in the crucial vote that's coming up on April 4th.
Hi, I'm Denise McCann. I've lived in Downers Grove for 24 years. I have a blended family, and we have raised 4 sons in Downers Grove at Lester, Herrick, and North. In my 24 years in this amazing village, I have been president of the Downers Grove Swim and Racket Club 2 terms. I have been a secretary of the Downers Grove North Parents Club, president of the PTA. I know that sounds, it's not the big leagues, but trust me. I've been on the Economic Commission of the Downers Grove Village. So I've always felt a need to give back. We found Downers Grove 24 years ago, not prescriptively, but by chance because it worked out for where we were working. We have found nothing but inclusion and delight raising our 4 kids in Downers Grove. They have taken part in many, many activities from Downers Grove Panthers to Downers Grove Roadrunners soccer, of course on the swim team at the Swim and Racket. I love the village, and that is why I would like to continue to serve in a capacity as a commissioner. I am asking for your vote on April 4th.
Do you favor allowing video gaming? If yes, would you favor certain limitations on gaming? If no, why not? And what other ways would you support increasing revenue for the village?
Thank you. I actually think the village missed an opportunity here when it last considered this, and it's time to bring the issue back up for a decision. Tabling something indefinitely is not the way to make a decision, in my opinion. I've looked at the issue, and I think the village missed an opportunity here because we should never lose out on opportunities to capture revenue from outside of our community that can be used for the benefit of our residents. We have rising costs, we have unfunded mandates, all these things can keep increasing, and the village must responsibly explore new or enhanced revenue sources in order to keep property taxes reasonable. I would support a design of a pilot program for video gaming that would be limited. It would be limited in time, and it would be limited in space. This is not unlike what we did with food trucks back when I previously served. Didn't have them in the downtown, they were limited to certain areas, and I would put it in for 1 year, or at least explore with the village council putting it in for 1 year and then having it sunset. The purpose being we can actually see what the impact is on the community, both financially and if there is any detriments. This way we would drive some data that we can make solid decisions on rather than speculation about video gaming, particularly given information is available in surrounding communities. With respect to other areas beyond video gaming, those same increased costs and mandates require the village to take activities to continue to pursue and support things that generate revenue, such as sales tax, food and beverage tax, hotel and motel tax, again, capturing revenue from outside of the community for the benefit of our community. And we need to remain creative and innovative in exploring other revenue sources in order to keep our property taxes achievable for those who can least afford them.
Candace Sowski-Fugit.
Yes, as was discussed over the last couple of years, I am in favor of allowing video gaming and in fact did vote in favor of it when it was brought to the council last year. As we discussed at that time, I am in favor of requiring it to be in a separate room, as well as limitations to the number of devices at each location, and also support limiting the number of licenses to start, similar to the pilot program that we had discussed last year, to allow for that. I would support video gaming at any establishment that can follow these guidelines, regardless of location within the village. I know there was discussion about limiting it on Main Street, but I think that if a facility can accommodate any of the regulations that we were putting forward, I don't see why we would not allow it there as well. And in addition to this source of revenue, which to be clear, I think would not, be quite as large, especially with a pilot program as what folks might hope, but I do think it would help keep our businesses competitive. I do also support looking into unique sources of revenue, potentially raising food and beverage tax and other discretionary taxes rather than increasing property taxes across the board if we need to raise revenues. Thanks.
Thank you. Candidates Davenport.
So, I've never purchased a lotto ticket. I've never stepped into a casino, but I know others that enjoy that experience immensely. And I'm certainly intrigued by the potential revenue, jobs, and business growth that gaming can provide. I think it's important to acknowledge that video gaming already exists in our unincorporated areas, along our borders, and in each one of our smartphones. When considering video gaming, I promise to work to ensure that it isn't objectionable to people who would rather not see it or hear it. And I'm in fact one of those people. There are safety, aesthetic, and oversight issues that must be in place. And there are some areas of town, particularly the downtown, that I do not feel are suitable for a gaming use. Similar in how we regulate through our zoning ordinance where factories, schools, and bars are appropriate. I'll answer the increasing revenue portion of the question more fully in my next response, but the short answer is greater sales tax, beverage taxes, without increasing those tax rates.
Thank you.
I am definitely, in favor of video gambling in limited places. Basically not having it at all in the downtown. The downtown already has enough of a charm and aesthetic that they don't need anything to pull people in. Staff has come up with numbers themselves that said 16% of gross revenue for establishments that would have it would come from gambling. I don't know of any other ways right now that bars and restaurants can boost their revenue 16%. That's a pretty large number. Some other numbers, Westmont gets $382,000 a year from video gambling. Lamont gets $207,000. Our own village's estimate is between $250,000 and $270,000 a year in the village from video gambling. Again, I don't see anything else on the table to raise that kind of money. The communities that I've mentioned, they've had it for a while. It works. If they had problems, they would no longer be doing it, but they are. We have 56 eligible locations here in Downers Grove. I know those 56 would probably be glad to make an extra 16% profit a year. Every day, businesses on Ogden and Butterfield, they see cars speeding by on their way into Westmont. Cars full of revenue that we could be catching here in Downers Grove. So as far as other revenue streams, I will also address that in the next question. Thank you.
From what I have read, the community is still divided on this issue, so much so that a vote on video gaming was tabled by the council in late 2021. It's the council's job to research this issue and talk about it with the constituents on both sides of the fence, because there is a fence. As I see it, reasonable regulation may be the answer. Indeed, that is probably why the village itself proposed reasonable regulations in 2021. The regulations I have in mind are straightforward ones that take into account the diverse perspectives here. The main regulation I'd recommend is limits on location, like has been discussed in Not Downtown Main Street. I'd also recommend licensing requirements, an annual fee for the terminals. Ground rules like those could help make video gaming a win-win for us and hopefully be able to bridge the gap between that fence. The approach I just outlined will raise revenues. In terms of other revenue-seeking sources, we should look into making Downers Grove more accessible to small businesses who are seeking brick-and-mortar locations. This will not only generate more foot traffic in our beautiful town, but it will also, as been mentioned before, increase revenue from sales taxes.
I am in favor of video gaming in Downers Grove with a limit. Personally, I would limit it in downtown district, would have no video gaming in the downtown district. The corridors of Butterfield, Ogden, 55th, 63rd, and 75th have plenty of establishments, like Jim mentioned, that could have gaming. Based on Westmont's numbers and approximately 10 establishments that would each have 6 terminals, he is correct. It could generate approximately $250,000. Now, with that being said, I know there's some pushback with safety, aesthetics, etc. And I would offer to anyone that maybe feels that way to go to Neat in Westmont, see how they present their gaming. Zazos, which is up on Ogden. Now, those are both in Westmont. And just take a look at how the gaming presents in the restaurant atmosphere. I believe they do it well. In addition to other funding, I'll answer that also in the next question.
Economic development has been a focus of past councils. In your opinion, what role should the mayor and council play in economic development and recruiting more business? What can be done to ensure that new development is encouraged while also preserving historic buildings? What specific additions to our downtown would you like to see in the next 4 years?
We do have a very successful economic development corporation here in Downers Grove, and in my opinion, the role of mayor and council is to provide broad goals and objectives and oversight to ensure that the EDC is in fact meeting its targets and providing a value for the money to our taxpayers. I think that council does have some opportunity to look at zoning in certain areas. Some specific spots that I feel like we could really benefit from reviewing that are the Fairview Corridor along Rogers Avenue, as well as 75th Street. That comes up in every conversation that I have. So those are some tools that the village and the village council have at our disposal to kind of diversify our opportunities in terms of economic development. Moving forward, I think that balancing preservation and economic development is critical, as the next council will be facing a review of the comprehensive plan. We do need to consider quality of life and community culture as we continue developing, and consider the roles of environmental sustainability and the ability to traverse the village by walking or by bicycle. I want to see us plan for more dedicated bike lanes and add green space to our downtown to both improve the aesthetics, but also for stormwater retention, and to set an example that we are prioritizing the preservation of the environment and of our history for generations to come.
So encouraging new development while preserving historic buildings is a challenge. I was the chairperson of our Architectural Design Review Board for most of the 16 years that I served. The ADRB is our de facto Historic Preservation Commission. In partnership with hardworking nonprofit groups like the Historical Society, the Pierce Downer Heritage Alliance, Friends of Edward House, an impressive number of homes have already been voluntarily landmarked. I also served on one of our previous comprehensive planning commissions 13 years ago in an attempt to envision the future of our town. And I think both these groups should now be tasked with re-examining our community's vision specifically for the downtown area. Recruiting new businesses through our partnerships with Choose DuPage, the EDC, the Downtown Management Corporation, Chamber 630, has been a tremendous success and should be continued. That said, I believe the key to attracting new businesses should always begin with taking the absolute best care of the businesses that already call Downers Grove home. The Rexner Company's new development in the Ellsworth Park business park is a perfect example of this, really. I envision Downers Grove as a can-do community that helps businesses untangle the web of regulations, ordinances, and codes. And for our downtown in the next few years, I would like to see more retail. I'd also like to see a safer, more attractive solution for our outdoor dining than the current concrete barricade situation.
I think it's important that our staff be the best spokespeople for the village, that it starts at the top and works its way down. It's important that they assist staff whenever possible with targeting and convincing new businesses to come to town. An example would be creating a campaign called It's on Ogden to highlight the businesses on Ogden. For way too long, we've focused all our energy and all our effort on the downtown, and businesses at the north and south end of town are struggling. They feel like they're left out, like they don't matter. And I want to make sure that all the businesses in town know that they matter and that they're important to us. And I want to keep the small town aesthetic that we have in the downtown and make sure that we have mom and pop restaurants like the new butcher shop, Headspace. Taylor over there does an amazing job And it was an empty building not that long ago, and now it's a vibrant barber shop. We definitely need to we need to make sure that we highlight our historic buildings. Make sure that we put before and after pictures of them so that people know that we are definitely fighting to maintain the historic buildings that we have in our community.
The economic development plan of past councils has focused on small consumer good businesses, for example, our wonderful restaurants and shops, and it's been a great success. What is needed now is a complementary focus on local services. There are too many vacant offices in our town, inside and out of Main Street. The council should work to help fill those spaces. In terms of the preservation of historic sites, I have no intention of compromising those sites in our development plan. In fact, I live in a 100-year-old house and I'd like to see it deemed a historic monument. One specific addition to our downtown that I would like to see in the next 4 years is the introduction of at least 1 or 2 more special events, like our Rotary Fest or our Fine Arts Festival. As I see it, drawing new visitors to Main Street is much more important for the downtown than is the construction of new and overly expensive apartments and condos. Downers Grove is positioned near many diverse ethnic enclaves of the Chicagoland area. There are many people and groups in our area who wish to express and celebrate their culture and also learn about different cultures. Here we might follow the example of one of our neighbors. Last year in Burr Ridge, they hosted a Taste of Egypt festival that grossed $98,000 in revenue. With our beautiful, walkable, parking-rich-ish downtown, why not seek to develop and sponsor festivals like those?
In terms of economic development, I urge every resident to read everything they can on what I call the Big Three. And that would be the Downers Grove Economic Development Corps, the Downers Grove Village Plan, the Downers Grove Downtown Management Corps. If you read the plans and the initiatives in the Big Three, you will be privy to many options for economic development. I'm in support of downtown Downers Grove, but I also have special interests in the key focus areas that Downers Grove has already identified. 2 of them that are especially of interest to me is Ogden with the TIF, the current TIF, and the Fairview and Maple Business District. I would like to see the downtown Downers Grove extend a little bit past Goldfinger, which is a wonderful addition on Rogers, to the Fairview and Maple Business District. I see that as good for the residents, obviously good for Downers Grove.
Thank you. It is impossible to address this topic in 90 seconds. I think everyone in the room will agree with that with me. But it's all about attracting and retaining quality businesses in your community. And that's about branding, and it's about creating an environment that businesses want to stay in and that they want to come to. And there are all kinds of strategies to do this. Transit-oriented development has been studied a great deal. University of Illinois has studies on it. We could go on and on and on about why the plan reflects what it reflects and why it is working. No question we need to continue to collaborate and cooperate with the other entities, Choose DuPage, Chamber of Commerce, DG Economic Development Corporation, Downtown Management Corporation. That's a no-brainer. But it's also important to partner, and candidate Davenport mentioned Rexnord. That was done because the village reached out and spoke to both school districts to craft a solution that kept Rexnord in our community, and I was very proud to have a role in doing that. Those are the kind of creative thinkings and partnerships that we need to execute on, and we need people who know how to do that to be on our village council. We also need to be able to attract and retain a mix of businesses, not just big businesses, but small businesses, and for the most part, businesses that generate the types of taxes I talked about that we can capture from outside of our community and use within our community. Preserving the balance between tradition and progress is the informal motto of our community. I believe in that very strongly. While we need to keep a thriving community going that benefits all our residents, we need to continue to support organizations like the Friends of the Edwards House and the Downers Grove Historical Society, both of which I'm a member of, and have things like historic preservation ordinances that allow for the landmarking of over 30 historic places in our community. And candidate Sarver, I'd love to work with you to landmark yours. This is very important. And then last but not least, the downtown is the heart of our community, but we do need to focus on the other catalyst sites in the comprehensive plan.
On a scale of 1 to 5, how would you rate the financial health of the village? Are there new or alternative sources of revenue you would support? Are there cost savings opportunities you would support?
Yes, I'd give us a 4 because we're in great shape, but we can always do better. Compared to some of our neighbors, I'd probably give us a 5 because they can only dream of having our AAA bond rating, $23 million fund balance, and no increase in the total property tax levy yet again. To save on costs, I would look for more opportunities to partner with state and local governments like we've done before with, say, Washington Park, Belmont Road Underpass, the 911 call center, the new Civic Center. And I would also say, those of you who have received a campaign email from me know that I consider you to be my best ambassador. And I'm relying on each of you to help me tell my story. And in this same way, our businesses and our residents are our community's best and greatest ambassadors. We need to treat them as such. The stories they tell business associates about the ease of doing business in Downers Grove is the best advertising we could ever possibly hope for. Simply put, it's about earning a reputation as a place that looks for ways to say yes. Our quality of life here, schools, housing, commerce, are second to none, especially when considering our local sales tax rates and other taxes compared to most other DuPage communities. Downers Grove is the place to be.
I think I would rate us also a 4. We have just under $1 million budget surplus, and that shows that things are going in the right direction. But at the same time, we have to stay focused on it. As a business owner, I have to look every day and see where the money's coming in and where it's going out. If you let that lag, all of a sudden you're going to find yourself in a huge deficit trying to scramble to figure out how to get your way out of it. It's easier to change oars midstream if you know exactly what's going on every day. Again, new revenue streams, video gambling would be a perfect example. Bringing in new small business would also be a great way to do it without having to charge more for food and beverage taxes to residents, because we'll have more places actually putting money in. I would also focus on maintaining that budget surplus. You never know what tomorrow's going to bring, so it's important that we have a little money set aside as a rainy day fund so that if something does happen, there's a downturn in the economy, we can deal with that and stay solvent.
I had to go off grid here. I know it said between 1 and 5, but I'm going to go with 4.5. Thanks to good leadership so far, Downers Grove has been able to maintain, as we've heard, a healthy and balanced budget over the past several years. The focus on sustainability has served the village well and has allowed it to add important staff positions while also funding needed and vital services. The decision not to change the property tax levy shows that our town's financial health is solid, and so does the decision to fund and improve all of the infrastructural improvements that we've already heard about. One thing that we can do to improve the village financial health is to encourage new small businesses, as we've heard time and time again, and convince people to set up shop here and keep shop here. On kind of a different note, Downers Grove is a relatively affluent place. The residents of Downers have an average salary between $42,000 and $128,000 a year, with the majority around the $71,000 mark. While that's good news, there are aspects of our economy that raise concern. For example, our cost of housing is 101% higher than the national average. Our cost of living is 31% higher. While some problems are due to forces out of our control, it's important to explore ways to reduce the cost of living in Downers Grove and make it more affordable for the average family, young professionals, and those looking to move in and join our welcoming community.
In regards to financial health, I would give Downers Grove, I'm going to go with what you said, candidate Sarver, 4.5. Under the constraints of fund accounting and home rule, which Downers Grove could use at any moment, Downers Grove has affirmed a AAA credit rating and kept flat rate tax for 2023. This speaks of lean financial management while continuing to grow development and maintain our top-tier public services. Now, I'm a bit different. We can encourage 5 small businesses to come to the Downers Grove downtown or one of our corridors, or the EDC can convince a major corporation to put their headquarters up on Belmont. It's a balance. We need both. Recently, we had another company put their headquarters up there on the Belmont corridor, and I believe that substantially increases our tax base. I do want the small businesses. They also need the foot traffic. Back to housing. I was fortunate enough 24 years ago to be able to afford a home in Downers Grove. I think we paid $119,000. Candidate Sarver is correct. Our housing costs are higher. I also live in a 127-year-old home. And I feel that every day, actually, as we try to keep that up. I believe we need to do what we can to reduce housing costs.
I am just thrilled to hear all the high marks that the village is getting for its financial condition because I'm so proud to have played a part in making that possible from 2011 to 2019. And thank you to the current council for keeping that going. Appreciate it. I'd give it a 4.5. Why? Because we have to keep it going and we need people who know how to continue to deliver good value and sustainable services on the village council going forward. And of course, there's always room for improvement, but appreciate the high marks from everybody up here. Yes, the AAA bond rating is key. The stormwater utility was a key part of making that AAA bond rating possible, and having that Standard & Poor's rating alone has saved the village millions of dollars in interest costs on its bond issuances. So very important to us. So how did we do all this? It was through doing more with less, through employing continuous innovation and lean practices, by leveraging cooperation, collaboration, and where it made sense, consolidation, and partnering with other organizations and leveraging their resources and programs, such as the DuPage Mayors and Managers Conference. Collaboration opportunities, tons of successes here. Number one, partnering with the Park District to improve their play spaces while the village gets a stormwater facility. Partnering with District 58 on shared facilities. Partnering with the Friends of the Edwards House, for example, on helping them drive the voluntary landmarking program. Partnering with the Rotary for our major community event. All these partnerships we need to continue to pursue and encourage and identify because they are ways to really do more with less. And last, in order to stay this way, we must continue to prioritize our must-haves before we consider focusing on the nice-to-haves, just like your family budget.
Yeah, in terms of the current financial health, I do think it is a 5. I think there are places where we can improve upon our services, but I think that we are doing everything that we can to be fiscally responsible. We have an excellent budgeting process. We as a council discuss our priorities for the next year with staff, and they prepare a budget concurrently to ensure that our priorities are appropriately funded. We levy only the amount of taxes that it will take to run the village for the year and consistently have appropriate reserves for a municipality of our size, typically about 38% of our budget. We fund our pensions at the recommended rate set by the state of Illinois and are always in full compliance. We've continued the legacy of the AAA bond rating since 2013, allowing us to borrow at the lowest interest rates, and we are always below average to average with regard to our property tax rate within the county. Our services are exceptional, so despite having those low taxes, we are also a very high-performing organization. I personally think that we can revisit some of our more those discretionary taxes like food and beverage tax to improve upon our services. We spent quite a bit of time leaning out our staff, and I think we're about as low as we could potentially go. And I personally think that we could gain some value from adding some staff back. We know that our public safety folks are the ones who take a lot of those social service calls, and I'm proud that we have hired a social worker. But I think that we could use more resources in that area, and I'll talk a little bit about that in the next question. I think we are able to do this while still keeping our tax rate a good value for the residents.
Stormwater has plagued the village for decades. What are your thoughts on stormwater and how to solve this chronic problem? Is the stormwater fee working as planned? What should we do to increase our tree canopy on village land such as parkways and on private?
Well, I think the easiest solution is quite simply to stop putting gray stuff on the green stuff. And by that, I mean, we don't need to cover every inch of ground in the building with concrete, or in the town with concrete. The Longfellow project was a perfect example of that. My heart goes out to those people. They had flooding issues before those houses were built. They have even more flooding issues now. The village could have done a lot more to require permeable surfaces to allow rainwater to sink in. We can also clean and expand our creeks and rivers to allow better water flow through them. That'll help get rid of some of that stormwater. I also feel that charging residents more for a problem that the village created just puts a Band-Aid on it and doesn't really solve the issue. As far as trees, the village with their AAA credit rating could start a program where they purchase trees that the residents can buy at a discount and put in. They can also make sure that when the village takes down a tree, they plant at least another tree in its place. That will really help us get our tree coverage back in the community.
Stormwater is indeed a serious problem, and I live it. In fact, my backyard has a pond in which the federal government came in several years ago and declared a protected wetland. So I've experienced this firsthand. The village has tried to address it, but its efforts, as we've seen, have come up short. Yet since 2013, Downers Grove has been collecting a stormwater fee based on a formula that calculates equivalent runoff units. The village offers incentives and credits for socially responsible initiatives such as rain barrels, rain gardens, and permeable pavers. The stormwater fee, as offset by incentives and credits, is a very good idea, but its implementation needs improvement. I recommend two things here. First, we must work to ensure that revenues collected through the fee are directly applied to start smart stormwater mitigation. Second, we must revisit stormwater fee levels, credits, and offsets to ensure that they are working to incentivize best practices and stimulate helpful investments. Regarding tree canopy, education and outreach are key. The village needs to communicate the vital role that trees play, not only in stormwater management, but also improving air quality and enhancing the beauty and livability of our town. In addition, we need to update and improve enforcement of the village's tree protection ordinance. The ordinance is critical. It promotes tree canopy on common parkways as well as on private property, especially in the context of the new construction we experience.
Stormwater. It is an issue that has plagued Downers Grove probably since Downers Grove was created. As commissioner, I will support the stormwater fee, credit, and incentive program. But much like what candidate Sarver said, I would like those particular monies to be directly related to perhaps public infrastructure. Continuing that. This is a long-term plan. There's no short answer to this. As commissioner, I will support the subdivision control ordinance, the stormwater and floodplain ordinances, the naturalized stormwater retention and detention basins where possible, promote the low-impact development best practices for all new commercial properties. I would also support regulating development in floodplains, much like your backyard, or localized poor drainage areas. In terms of the tree canopy, it's so interesting. If you look at the Google of Downers Grove, you can't see anything. You just see trees. But I do realize we need to replace them and keep them going. There are two parts to the tree canopy. There are public and private. We have to incentivize our public to replant trees and keep trees on their property. And the public part of that would have maybe perhaps Downers Grove incentivizing new development with trees.
Stormwater is always going to be a problem in Downers Grove due to our topography and our soil conditions. That's just a fact we have to live with. Now, if I could go back in time and maybe have nudged Pierce Downer to stop his wagon somewhere else in 1832 so we didn't have to deal with this, maybe. But we are where we are, and as some have said, we're kind of at the bottom of a bowl, so we're going to have these challenges. But all kidding aside, the village has taken this very seriously for a long time and has dedicated a lot of policy, practices, and dollars to this solution and has provided a considerable amount of relief. The Stormwater Master Plan is a very important document that we need to be mindful of and follow. The Stormwater Utility creates a dedicated revenue source that can only be used for stormwater infrastructure and maintenance. It can't be diverted to other things. That's why it's a stormwater utility. Partnering with the Park District, as I mentioned earlier, with respect to when they want to have new play fields and we can put in a stormwater detention period, such as in McCullum Park or in Washington Park, those are great opportunities. And then we also can continue to look at more regulations for discharge on private property, such as the sub pump discharge ordinance that the village put in a while ago. So sticking to the master plan, sticking with the community investment program are critical to making sure that we don't kick the can down the road. Tree canopy, no brainer. Of course we want more trees in our tree canopy, and I would encourage and support doing more to do that. Yes, the village plants many, many, many trees every year, but it's not just a numbers game. We need to look at maintenance, we need to look at quality, and we need to look at other issues to ensure their achievement and their survival. I would continue to step up collaboration with the Morton Arboretum, with the Conservation Foundation, and the Suburban Tree Consortium to get more trees in our community and be true to our label as a tree city for many decades.
Yes, thank you. As candidate Tully mentioned, the stormwater utility fee is absolutely only to be used for stormwater related projects. And it has been funding both capital improvement projects as well as maintenance, which is something that I had a concern with probably about 10 years ago. And I have seen an incredible positive movement in terms of our maintaining of systems. I live in an area that flooded quite a bit when we first moved in, and we were part of the end of the 20-year stormwater plan that ended about 2 years ago. And we have seen just a dramatic reduction in flood damage in our community. And so I know that these capital improvement projects are happening all throughout the village, and they're being funded by that stormwater utility fee. We also enforce that wonderful stormwater ordinance that I know candidate Tully played a role in. To ensure that property owners are accounting for the displaced stormwater when adding more impermeable surface onto their properties. Moving forward, I think we should develop a sustainability plan as we revisit our comprehensive plan, so that in addition to these capital projects and maintenance, we can also encourage businesses and potentially incentivize residents to consider permeable surfaces, gray water systems, rain gardens even further, and that will reduce the impact of stormwater in the village. I am in favor of creating incentives for this, as well as a private tree ordinance, which was something that Commissioner Colavani and I brought forth this last round. And unfortunately, we did not have 7 votes, but it would ensure that a tree survey is completed by a licensed arborist to minimize any impact on mature trees in an area.
Yes, increasing our tree canopy is certainly a strategy I would support for reducing stormwater problems. Trees and vegetation soak up a lot of water, and trees are awesome. So we already do a great job of protecting parkway trees. In addition to fencing, we require a parkway tree assessment report for all major construction projects. And for trees on private property, I would favor incentives such as maybe reduced permit fees in exchange for preserving and planting new trees. Speaking of stormwater management, I believe that the public and private development we've had here has been the largest contributor to our flooding problems. 100 years of teardowns, McMansions, and ocean-sized parking lots are the prescription for flooding. A few years ago, our village adopted some long overdue stormwater management regulations, and it was an important first step. Unfortunately, it has resulted in some unsightly and impractical solutions. If you have one of those crazy mounds in your backyard or pits in your front yard, you already know exactly what I'm talking about. I think we should adjust the requirements so that they vary based on the size of a property, not just the size of the project. And we should consider a construction permit fee in lieu of doing some of the work when the project is in an area where stormwater isn't much of a problem, so that those funds can be better focused in areas of greater need, like the Deer Creek subdivision, for instance.
Describe how you would speak out and take action in support of LGBTQ+, minorities, immigrants, and other marginalized groups, and how will you show leadership in the response to those using hurtful speech and rhetoric?
The village must use its resources to advance social justice and racial reconciliation. It is our job. Let me be perfectly clear. The debacle at the library last year is what motivated me to run for village council. Downers Grove is a diverse community, and our diversity is growing. In my view, we must do everything in our collective power to make sure that all feel safe and welcome in our town. Do not be deceived by candidates or others who profess a generic commitment to tolerance. Hate is not something that should be tolerated, and any candidate who says all opinions should be tolerated does not understand the issues here. Hateful opinions are not entitled to a platform. My background and professional experience furnished me with unique qualifications here. I am a trained safe space ally for the LGBTQ+ community, a supporter of DEI initiatives in my workplace. I also serve as the Title IX coordinator at my work. The job involves identification, prevention, and sanctioning of gender-based violence. Having dedicated my professional career to researching and exposing discrimination, I am well prepared, well informed, and eager to take action to support marginalized groups.
It seems fairly simple that I would speak out and take action in support of LGBTQ+, since I am a gay woman and a gay mother and have raised 4 sons in Downers Grove. But I'm going to take that a little bit further. Marginalized groups should all be heard. We have always within our family taken care of marginalized groups and immigrants. We had the opportunity to take in a young man from Leicester for 3 to 4 years, whose mother was working poor, who actually offered if we could take him. And the group, the community surrounded Moses in our home and sponsored him with Downers Grove Panthers, Swim and Racket Club, etc. In response to candidate Sarver regarding the library, I think that it was 95.5, 5% were being heard, 95% were not being heard. And as commissioner, I will support each and every LGBTQ+ policy that I'm able to.
There is absolutely no room for hate, bigotry, or violence in our modern society. None. Period. While it has sometimes been said that the best way to address harmful speech is with education and more speech, it also requires identifying and addressing the root causes of such hurtful speech and rhetoric. In this regard, the more of us who work together to come together, the more we all benefit. As a member of my law firm's DEI committee, I understand and appreciate the very important role that diversity, equity, and inclusion play in the success of any responsible organization. They are critical not only to delivering high value and quality service to our clients, but they are key to honoring our commitment of my majority women-owned law firm's core values. I also want to dispel something because one appointment gets dragged out of context quite a bit. But when I was mayor for 8 years, I had the opportunity to appoint a number of members to boards and commissions, and we have a lot of boards and commissions here in Downers Grove. Actions speak louder than words. I went out of my way to identify and recruit diverse candidates to our boards and commissions, recommend that for appointment by the village council, and over time increase the diversity of our boards and commissions. But you don't hear about that. If elected, I will continue to encourage the council and the village to pursue practices of inclusion and collaboration among those with varied experiences and perspectives to generate deeper insights into municipal issues. And in this regard, DEI also means including in the conversation those whose views we may not necessarily deal with, because if we all think alike, we are not diverse.
So first, we did reinstate our Human Services Commission, which can help address gaps that we see in this area. Also, I was the commissioner who introduced the DEI priority action item in 2019. The internal portion of it is currently underway after having hired a consultant and resulted in increased diversity in hiring in 2022, as well as additional bias trainings that staff found particularly valuable. So we are now better reflecting the demographics of Downers Grove in our hiring. In the coming year, we will be able to determine what the external portion of that will look like and the ways that we engage with the community. So I would love to be a part of that. DEI should always be a consideration, and we should be reflecting the demographics of our village, whether it be in hiring and board and commission appointments. But it can really only happen when we lead from a place of belonging. As candidate Sarver mentioned, there is no place for hateful speech, and tolerance and acceptance doesn't necessarily mean tolerating and accepting hateful speech. We've unfortunately seen a rise in some hate speech. We've seen white supremacist literature dropped on doorways. We have seen swastikas carved into the library. And we have seen attacks on the LGBTQ community, and there is not a place for that here in Downers Grove. I believe that we as leaders need to speak out when we see some of those issues and be clear to the residents that we aren't going to tolerate that kind of hate speech. And I will always vow to continue to speak out against the hate speech and rhetoric and advocate for diverse voices to be included in village discussions.
In my 12 years on the District 99 School Board, I've stood up for the rights of all of our children, and I'm quite proud of our DEI work that we've done. In the last few years, I've endured a small fraction of the hateful speech and rhetoric that many marginalized people endure every single day of their lives. I will continue to speak out for all of us to love who we want to love, live as we choose, and be who we are, not who others think we should be. A few days ago, I was looking at the village website and scrolled through the current job postings. Each one states that the Village of Downers Grove is an equal opportunity employer. This means more to me than just a legal requirement for hiring procedures, practices. It's an ideal that we should uphold every single day. I will aim to ensure our village employees and volunteers know that they are supported and deeply appreciated. And I will continue to support inclusive policies that result in our employees and volunteers reflecting the diversity of our community. Thank you.
When I think about this issue, I think about something that Martin Luther King Jr. said decades ago. He said he wanted to see a day where people were judged by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. Today, we're taking that one step forward. I think we need to judge people by the context of their character above all else. How are they as people? How do they treat others? We have to have a place at the table for everyone. Everyone has to have a spot. We also need to be reminded that throughout history, all groups were marginalized at one point or another. No one was over anyone else as far as that goes. The other thing that I think of is that we can't proceed with any of these discussions until we find common ground with everyone. Without common ground, without people being able to openly discuss ideas, what do we have? We don't have anything. I don't want to see the media talking about Downers Grove, talking about Antifa or Proud Boys or any of that. I want them to be discussing only positives in our community. I want to remind people that we have more similarities than differences, and we need to celebrate those. We have laws on the books ensuring equal rights for all. We need to make sure that from the top down, everyone is aware of those and that we abide by those rules.
So in closing, I'm asking for your vote for Commissioner on Village Council. I have been a resident for 24 years. I've spent decades at a Fortune 100 company, collaborating, process management, networking, getting things done with a very diverse group of people. I believe that's something that I can bring to the council. As a commissioner, I would be in support of prescriptive, thoughtful development with everything that we've spoken about in this forum for the downtown and the corridors. I would support open and transparent communication, and I would support diversity and inclusion for all residents. Thank you.
When I delivered my opening remarks, I stated that never in my life did I think I would get involved in politics and run for elected office. And here I am. I'm not doing it for fame. I'm not doing it for fortune. I'm not doing it for resume building. I'm doing it because I truly do love this community that I've been calling home for almost a decade. Things that are important to me in some: economic and environmental sustainability, inclusivity, and data-informed decision-making. I feel that I am uniquely placed as a researcher and a social scientist, that I know how important thorough investigation and rational thought are for decision-making at the community level. And I promise to utilize those skills to assist in making decisions that are best for everyone and keeping Downers Grove the wonderful community that it is and that I will always call home.
As we wrap up here today, I'm reminded of something Abraham Lincoln said in 1858. A house divided cannot stand. And to think about the division, the rhetoric, the threats, and the bullying in our community, and I know it must stop. Progress of any kind will be hollow without some sort of common ground attained first. As I sit here today, I pledge to make every effort to close that chasm that exists in our community for real progress. Without doing that, we're nowhere. Friends, you've heard some people speaking today answering questions about the issues that affect us all. But did they really say anything? Did the words like transparency, helping others, and development, did they give any concrete suggestions or ideas on how to put those words into action? Or did they just throw around those words to win votes? Remember, actions get things done. Everything I've mentioned is more than words to me. as building blocks to a better neighborhood, a better community, and a better Downers Grove. My thanks to those who put together this forum, to the village for posting it, and to you, the residents, for watching and listening. Hopefully you feel the same way I do about our little town and will elect me, James P. Jim Devitt, to represent you on the village council. The most important thing, though, is to actually vote. Don't leave it up to someone else. Make sure you do it to ensure we all get the leadership and the voice we all deserve. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Yes, so I would say, unlike candidate Devitt, I feel like I'm sitting with a good group of people here that have offered some pretty concrete ideas about what they might do as members of the village council, and a pretty positive vision. So I'm proud to be sitting at this table. I'd like to sincerely thank once again Tom Schroeder and Hillary Dank and Amy Gasson for making all this possible. Voters need opportunities like this to get to know candidates and cast informed votes. And thank you to those of you at home who are taking the time to become more informed about the candidates and the issues. In closing, there's something more I'd like to share about my personal life so that you might better understand why I volunteer so much time. My parents had multiple marriages. We moved several times, and we were even homeless for a short time. I was forced to grow up early. I moved out of the house my junior year in high school, and I moved in with a teacher and her family. Through it all, I received encouragement, reward, and hope through the selfless volunteering of teachers, neighbors, and friends. My school board service was one of the ways I wanted to pay it forward. And with your vote of confidence, I'd like to continue paying it forward by serving on our village council. I know my debt can never be fully repaid, but I will never stop trying. Please vote for me, Mike Davenport, for village council on April 4th. Thank you.
So to recap some of the things that we discussed today, if reelected, my top priorities for the next 4 years would be to handle the sale of village land in the next phase of the village facilities project in a way that's both fiscally responsible and maximizes the likelihood of affordable housing within the community, to approach the review of our comprehensive plan with not just an economic development lens, but also with a look toward walkability and bikeability and environmental sustainability, so we can balance development with quality of life, and to complete the external phase of our DEI initiative, which will result in strategies to increase diversity beyond just our hiring and promotions practices in the village. I moved here, to Downers Grove in 2012, but to Illinois from Ohio in 2011. And we have no family in Illinois. So our neighbors in Downers Grove have become our family, and they literally are our village. There have been times when my husband got in a car accident and we had to have a neighbor go pick up our dog so I could go pick up our daughter from daycare. And those types of experiences are just invaluable and part of why I want to continue serving the community of Downers Grove. I want to thank the residents of Downers Grove for putting your trust in me in 2019. And I hope to earn your support for re-election in the April 4th, 2023 election. Again, thank you to Tom, Hillary, and Amy. I appreciate you spending your Sunday with us. And thanks again.
Downers Grove is truly a very special place. And having served as mayor and dealt with a number of other mayors and other communities through DuPage Mayors and Managers, it always struck me that there is quite no place like Downers Grove. And it's part of the reason why my family and I are in our 4th home in Downers Grove, and we will be here for the duration. But it's also why I keep coming back, because I want to keep Downers Grove the safe, welcoming, and thriving community that it is, because it is that very special place. And I credit everybody who wants to stand up and serve this community, and give you credit, win or lose, for doing so. I will echo those comments that have been made about thanking those in the room here for hosting and sponsoring this forum. For those of you at home that are actually watching this and educating yourself on the issues, these general consolidated elections don't always get the turnout they should, so thank you for paying attention and learning about the candidates. One thing you have in me is no surprises. Oftentimes you'll hear candidates say things and you'll wonder, well, that sounded really good, but will they actually do it? Can they actually do it? You don't have to guess when it comes to me. I've always put performance over politics, and I'm a problem solver, and I have always worked hard to achieve exceptional results for the village. And you don't have to look at me and say, well, what results are you talking about, Martin? I have a proven track record of exceptional results. I was privileged to be part of a village council when I was mayor that achieved that AAA bond rating that you heard of and maintained it throughout. That had a police force that was CALEA rated excellent, putting it at the top 1% of police departments in the country. An ISO rating for the fire department that we are in right now, Station 3, that put it at the top 1% of the country. No property tax increases for municipal operations for 8 years. That's unheard of compared to our neighbors. Historic preservation ordinance actually being put into place through a lot of effort and then implemented so that we have historic preservation, achieving that balance between tradition and progress. And of course, always transparency and engaging with residents and communicating. Sometimes if that means going to the resident, they can't wait for them to come to you. If that's what it takes, that's what you do. So please vote on April 4th for me. Early voting starts on March 20th over at the Lincoln Center. Look for me at the top of the ballot and either vote on or before April 4th.
Thank you again to the candidates for sharing their time and answers today. Their willingness to share and serve is appreciated. For the viewers of this forum, the screen will now show each candidate name, email address, and one social media link they have shared where additional information about them can be found. We wish the candidates good luck and encourage all those watching to share this forum with others and to vote April 4th.